When people say, well, you don't believe in global warming, I say, no, I believe in global warming. I don't believe that human CO2 is causing that warming.
But if CO2 isn't driving climate, what is? The secret of his success was the sun, in the belief that more spots heralded warmer weather. In 1893, the British astronomer Edward Maunder observed that during the Little Ice Age, there were barely any spots visible on the sun.
I decided to test it by gambling on the weather through William Hill against what the Met Office said was a normal expectation. And I won money month after month after month after month.
What they found was an incredibly close correlation between what the sun was doing and changes in temperature on Earth.
Then we went back in time.
So Professor Friis Christiansen and his colleagues examined 400 years of astronomical records to compare sunspot activity against temperature variation. Once again, they found that variations in solar activity were intimately linked to temperature variation on Earth. It was the sun, it seemed, not carbon dioxide or anything else, that was driving changes in the climate. Many senior climate scientists say the actual scientific basis for the theory is crumbling.
There were periods, for example, in Earth's history when we had 3 times as much CO2 as we have today, or periods when we had 10 times as much CO2 as we have today. And if CO2 has a large effect on climate, then you should see it in the temperature reconstruction.
If we look at climate through the geological time frame, we would never suspect CO2 as a major climate driver.
None of the major climate changes in the last 1,000 years can be explained by CO2.
You can't say that CO2 will drive climate. It certainly never did in the past.
I've often heard it said that there is a consensus of thousands of scientists on the global warming issue and that humans are causing a catastrophic change to the climate system. Well, I am one scientist, and there are many that simply think that is not true.
Man-made global warming is no ordinary scientific theory.
This morning, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change made up of...
It is presented in the media as having the stamp of authority of an impressive international organization.
From the IPCC,
the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or IPCC.
The IPCC, like any UN body, is political.
It is the story of the distortion of a whole area of science.
Climate scientists need there to be a problem in order to get funding.
We have a vested interest in creating panic because then money will flow to climate science.
There's one thing you shouldn't say, and that is, this might not be a problem.
Fact of the matter is that tens of thousands of jobs depend upon global warming right now. It's a big business.
The whole global warming business has become like a religion. And people who disagree are called heretics. I'm a heretic. The makers of this program are all heretics.
Patrick Moore is considered one of the foremost environmentalists of his generation. He is co-founder of Greenpeace.
When I left Greenpeace, it was in the midst of them adopting a campaign to ban chlorine worldwide. Like I said, you guys, this is one of the elements in the periodic table, you know. I mean, I'm not sure if that's in our jurisdiction to be banning a whole element. The environmental movement has evolved into the strongest force there is for preventing development in the developing countries.
This isn't from a conspiracy website or a right-wing website. This actually comes from the NASA website in 2015, telling you mass gains of Antarctic ice sheet greater than losses. How could this be? Al Gore made so many videos, and Democratic politicians for decades have been telling us, give us all of your tax money and we'll stop the climate from changing.
The thing that kind of jumps out at you is, did they ever fit together? Most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. The relationship is actually very complicated, but there is one relationship that is far more powerful than all the others, and it is this. When there is more carbon dioxide, the temperature gets warmer.
Al Gore says the relationship between temperature and CO2 is complicated, but he doesn't say what those complications are. In fact, there was something very important in the ice core data that he failed to mention. Professor Ian Clark is a leading Arctic paleoclimatologist who looks back into the Earth's temperature record tens of millions of years.
The
atmosphere that's imprisoned in that ice, we liberate, and then we look at the CO2 content.
Professor Clark and others have indeed discovered, as Al Gore says, a link between carbon dioxide and temperature. But what Al Gore doesn't say is that the link is the wrong way round.
So CO2 lags behind that increase. It's got an 800-year lag, so temperature is leading CO2.
The temperature rises or falls, and then, after a few hundred years, carbon dioxide follows.
So obviously, carbon dioxide is not the cause of that warming. In fact, we can say that the warming produced the increase in carbon dioxide.
CO2 clearly cannot be causing temperature changes. It's a product of temperature. It's following temperature changes.
The ice core record goes to the very heart of the problem we have here. They said, if the CO2 increases in the atmosphere as a greenhouse gas, then the temperature will go up. But the ice core record shows exactly the opposite. So the fundamental assumption, the most fundamental assumption of the whole theory of climate change due to humans is shown to be wrong.
That the hypothesis of man-made global warming is falsified by the evidence.
So the recent warming of the Earth happened in the wrong place and at the wrong time. Most of the warming took place in the early part of the 20th century and occurred mostly at the Earth's surface, the very opposite of what should have happened according to the theory of man-made global warming. By the 1990s, tens of billions of dollars of government funding in the US, UK and elsewhere were being diverted into research relating to global warming. A large portion of those funds went into building computer models to forecast what the climate will be in the future. But how accurate are those models?
Climate models are only as good as the assumptions that go into them, and they have hundreds of assumptions. All it takes is one assumption to be wrong for the forecast to be way off.
The analogy I use is like my car's not running very well, so I'm going to ignore the engine, which is the sun, and I'm going to ignore the transmission, which is the water vapor, and I'm going to look at one nut on the right rear wheel, which is the human-produced CO2. It's that, the science is that bad.
So we're actually gaining ice, but yes, it's melting in certain regions that they take a picture of, freak out, throw a polar bear on there and say, oh my God, the ice is melting. What if we put a tax on the whole world and took your money for it?
Now the polar bears obviously survived that period. They're with us today. They are very adaptable, and these warm periods in the past, what we call hypsithermals, pose no problem for them.
No scientist disagrees. You shouldn't disagree either. But that, whenever you hear that in science, that's pure propaganda.
You see the government, when you see NASA, when you see other institutions say that 97% of climate scientists agree, do you think they're making it up? What I don't understand is how
government puts out about $2.5 billion directly for climate research every year. It only gives that money to scientists who will produce scientific results that support the global warming hypothesis of the Democrat Party position. So they don't have any choice. If you're going to get the money, you got to support their position.
It's absolutely ridiculous. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not paid by the oil company or Republicans. I'm an environmentalist, but a skeptic who has a brain and doesn't just follow the herd.
I don't always candy coat things. It's not my role. It could be swear words. It could be anything that someone could judge as not being appropriate for a health professional.
They're making messes right now. They're creating fires. They're creating droughts. They're driving the water over here. We're getting so much rain here. They're just driving it in one area. You know, they've been doing weather warfare for a long time, and that's the next. That's the next thing they're going to try to manipulate you with.
They're using HARP, aren't they?
They use HARP. They have a Roadrunner system. They have NextRad stations. They can do ionospheric heating with lasers and create all kinds of chaos, and they're damaging our Earth, and then they're blaming it on us, just like they do with everything. They cut down our trees, they damage our beautiful buildings, they hide our history, and they pass the buck, and they scapegoat us and say it's our fault. It's not. Don't ever dare blame me for that. They're the ones with peak oil, or they're the ones who are burning the fossil fuels and blaming it on us. It's not our fault. It's not on us. It's them. They're doing it, and then they're blaming us for it. They're nuts. Can you not see that it's their decisions? They're the ones who choose not to have water cars. Stan Meyer's already created water car. You know, we already have free energy. They choose not to use it, and then they dare blame us for climate change. Fuck them, okay? Stop buying it. Stop accepting it.